go right around that, and we are live. So
Okay.
welcome everybody out there in internet land. We're glad that you're with us. I'm Doug Wilkerson, and we got some team with us, and also we'll be having other folks showing up, I believe. So anyway, I'm glad you're here. And Lisa, if there's something you wanted to do on that particular area of step, you're welcome to do that. I was just going to cover the information that I have put together, and but you know, Zach is so thorough on his reflection. Probably I won't get to cover most of this information anyway. So it's kind of what I'm thinking. It's because of his you know, extreme brilliance. It's the reason why I'm saying that. So anyway, hey, I'm glad that everybody's with us. Anyway, I'd like to start off with a breathing exercise. And if you can, I've learned lately that, we talked several, probably a year, half ago, or maybe 2 years about putting your hands on your heart. But I also heard an additional technique about crossing your hands over your heart. And if you don't want to do it over your heart, you can just kind of hug yourself, or just basically cross yourself, which has some neurological effect, from what I understand, that it ties the two hemispheres together instead of them working independent. And it begins to help them to merge and helps us in our mental health issues. Anybody out there got any mental health issues? Well, the fact of it is we all got mental health issues. It's just it's in degrees, right? It's you know, depends on how much or how little, but we all got them. And so now some people don't like me to say that. You can't handle the truth. So anyway, let's don't get ugly all at once. So anyway, so let's take a deep breath in through your nose and breathe twice in on that exhale. Go. And then exhale slowly through your mouth. In through your nose twice. Exhale slowly through your mouth. One more time, twice. And exhale. Now I would like for you to repeat after me. After you inhale, and well, let's see, let's say this before we inhale. How about that? That'd probably be the best thing. And that is, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Forgive me.
Forgive me.
I love you.
I love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And inhale. And exhale. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Thank you.
Forgive me.
And I love you. Inhale, last time. 1, 2. I'm glad everyone's with us. I don't know if I've said it during the live broadcast, but our title that's tonight is Our Real Problem Can Be Found in the Lies That We Tell Ourselves. And we're going to be talking about self-deception here tonight. And so I'm assuming Zach is our MC. Is that right, Zach? And so I'm gonna pass it over to Zach. So welcome, Zach.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Saturday Night Live. It's our first Saturday of 2021, and so we just want to wish everybody a happy New Year, and we're glad you're here, and so we will get right into it, I guess, tonight. I guess I'll start off by saying that, 2020 was very challenging, and I guess it's not completely done with us yet. It feels like it's kind of holding on with a vengeance in some ways. But I'm hoping for a better year and to move forward and out of some of this stuff. And so I just hope that's my hope and prayer for you as well. And so I guess we'll just get started tonight. Doug, did you want to cover for the step, or you want me just to go on into the reflection?
Let's have the reading of the 12 steps.
Okay, we'll start there. That's a good idea. I don't know. So I just was asking that question. Please welcome Macy. She's going to read the 12 steps for us.
Hi, Macy.
Hi, Doug. The 12 steps. Step 1. We admitted that we were powerless over our problems and that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3. We made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. Step 4. We made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5. We admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6. We were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. Defects of character. Step 7. We humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. Step 8. We made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9. We made a direct amends to such people that when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10. Continue to take personal inventory when we did it. We got through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. Step 12. We had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. We tried to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
All right. Thank you, Macy. I appreciate that. You did a good job. And so we're going to go on to the reflection now. I'm waiting for a cue. We didn't cover it, so I'm asking.
Oh, let me go ahead and
Okay.
introduce the step, and then we'll go over to your reflection.
All right. Please welcome Doug. He's gonna give us a little bit on step 1.
The confusion tonight, folks, is our person that was going to do the step. He picked a step, and then I just got a text saying that he wasn't able to zoom in. So we are going to. I'm going to fill here a little bit. I've studied this step, but I hadn't planned on covering all of that. But here we go. We'll start with it, and then we'll go from there. Step 1. And by the way, steps are so powerful. And if you've worked the steps one time, that's great, but that's not enough, in my opinion, because I've worked them numerous times, and every time I go through it, I get new stuff. And I think that you should go over it. Now, the way we do steps here at Saturday Night Live is that we start with step 1 in the first month of the year, and in the second month of the year, step 2, and then go right on through all 12. And we work on the step that entire year. Lisa has, I don't know if all of you can see it or not, but she has the Life Recovery Bible up there. And of course, it's backwards No, it's right over there. It's just right on wrong on my screen. But that's the Life Recovery Bible. Now, this is a big one. One of the members of the group gave me this big Bible because because maybe they loved me or maybe they were torturing me. I'm not sure, but I like it. That was supposed to be a little bit of a joke. Anyway, I at least the writing is big and I can see it pretty good. So anyway, step one is this, and I know Macy's already read them, but I want to read step one again so that we can get focused. And most of us know it. And this is an essential step out of the 12 steps. Okay, for us folks that need to come to the place of processing and learning and growing. And the 12 steps is a form of discipleship, self-discipline, recovery. Okay, so here it is. Step one, we admit that we were powerless over our problems, that our lives have become unmanageable. Now, can we say amen to that? And so we have we have to be willing to say we is so important to start off here, because recovery is we can't do recovery alone. I'll be talking more about this later, probably. I've got it in my notes. But it's so important because most of us, because we were raised to try to be independent, self-sufficient, and so we think that we should work our recovery that way. But reality is, we were created for relationship with God, relationship with others, and especially, which is so important, relationship with ourselves. And so we need to admit that we were powerless. And see, if you've been pushed around by addiction, drugs, alcohol, different obsessive compulsive actions or behaviors, pornography, cutting, anger, violence, they all have their addictive qualities. And the reason why we have developed them in our life, they were coping mechanisms to try to cope with life, to keep us alive. And so tonight we're doing step one. It's the first one of the year, and we have to recognize that we are powerless and that our lives have become unmanageable. That means it's out of control. Now we believe that we believe we should control it, even though we know that we haven't, but that doesn't keep us from keep trying. And that's what step one here is, to help us to recognize that number one, we're powerless. And number two, yes, my life is unmanageable and I need some help. I need some community to help me to do better, to get healed, to get restored. So the section that was selected was about the dangerous self-deception. And you know what? We lie to others. We'll even try to lie to God, and we will lie to ourselves. And most people know when you're lying to them. God definitely knows when we're lying to him, but oftentimes we'll believe our own lies because we keep telling them to ourselves so much until we get familiar with them and we buy into them. And that's when we really get into the pit. That's the lies we tell ourselves. Anyway, the story that it refers to is Samson. Samson was a judge. He was gifted something when he was a child from God, great strength. And you know what? When we when we have you know, people that have certain gifts or talents, and they depend on them a lot. And oftentimes, at least in my experience, those folks that I've seen that's been very gifted, how can I say this? They get spoiled to their gifts or talents, and they don't, oftentimes they don't go ahead and grow and develop and mature. They just stay in that gift or talent. Does that make sense? I don't mean to be harsh, but we know that it's true, right? And this character out of the Bible, he was a judge, Samson. He was very strong, and he was a deliverer of Israel, but he had a problem, just like the rest of us. Okay, and they only talk about one problem, but I bet he had more, just like the rest of us, right? Because we all got problems, we all got issues. Now we can have gifts, and we can have talents, and we can even be spiritual, and still we can have problems. Okay, and so he had a problem, and his problem was he liked the women. Okay, and he liked the exotic women. Okay, and of course, with his power, that drew women to him. Of course, we've all been around. We've all seen some of this, right? People with power have groupies, right? How about that? Is that a good word, groupies? And so here Samson had Delilah, and of course she's not the only one. She's just the last one of the series of ones that he had, because she was the last one. Okay, but she wasn't the only one. I don't know if I said that correctly or not, but from what I understand, okay. But Delilah, she wanted something out of him. She wanted to know his secret. And I'm really not going to go into the full story, because most of us know the story. And anyway, she complained, and until he finally divulged his secret. And he told himself that he was invincible. And how many of us have grandiose ideas, and we tell ourselves that we're invincible? And we're not the strongest people out there, but we'll still tell ourselves that, right? And so, and we'll believe it. Okay, we'll believe it. We'll believe that story that we tell ourselves, and we'll talk more about that later, I think. So here he. And if you don't know the story, you ought to go read it. It's out of Judges 16, 1 through 31. And that's in the Old Testament, by the way. And he finally told her a secret. They came in, because they came in every time. And every time he wasn't telling her the truth and setting him up to fail. And they always came in. And this is deception, because he felt like he was okay. All right. And we ought to learn from what happens to us. Okay. I was talking to a guy this week that he had a negative event that happened in his life. And I said, well, you had a reasonably good idea that something was up when you first looked at him, because you know the signs. And his first answer was, no. I said, really? Well, then he told me the truth. Yeah, but I did it anyway. you know, and there's reasons why, and we're not even going to go into all the reasons. But the primary reason is the thing that causes most addiction problems, and that's loneliness. Okay. And and we've gone through a time here, the holidays, which can make a lot of people lonely. And I just want to pause right here on step one and say, if you're lonely, you need to reach out to people. You need to take care of yourself. Don't lie to yourself. This is what we're talking about tonight. Step one, about lying to yourself. Reach out. Do healthy things that will help you instead of unhealthy things that will harm you or maybe even kill you. Because, you know, the old saying is, you don't know how many relapses you've got left. You may have had your last relapse. The next one may be death. And I know that's harsh, but the best thing you can do is to make some healthy choices. So let's get back into this. And I know I'm taking longer than our presenter would have, but so let me scan the work here. And so, you know, they poked out his eyes and made him slave. He lived in a blind type of state because he denied reality. And that's self-induced blindness, right? But then when he was taken as a slave, they poked sticks in his eyes and made him blind. They chained him, they bound him, he lost his freedom, and he was blinded because he had, in my opinion, he had actually blinded himself and enslaved himself to his weakness. And that's what step one is about, is recognizing our powerlessness, our weakness. And if we don't recognize it, then we can't deal with it. If Samson would have come to himself and been honest with himself and recognized that he had a problem there and dealt with it instead of surrendering into his problem, things would have probably been different in his life. Would you agree? Lisa, you come on. Did you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to share a little bit, talking about the story with Samson, and the section was called dangerous self-deception. And I found it very interesting, and you're talking about the blindness and him being blinded in the story. But I think where we have to be careful is like Samson, his self-deception was that he truly believed his only weakness was the cutting of his hair. He believed that was his only weakness. If I do this, then I'm in trouble. And so as long as I don't do this, I'm okay. Much like some of us in recovery. If I don't drink, I'm okay. If I don't use, I'm okay. When actually Samson's real problem was his addiction to women and his loneliness, and he didn't deal with that. So his self-deception, I think that dangerous self-deception comes in when we think our only problem is this, and we are distracted from the reality of what our real problem is. Because most of us know that the substance is just a symptom of what the real problem is. So I think the importance of step one is not to lie to yourself, not to be blinded and think that that's the only thing you got going on, and to really unlock what it is that's really going on, And even for some of us old timers who've been here for a long time, we've wrestled many rounds with these steps, and we have to be careful because there's sometimes that we still have some of those dangerous self-deceptions. We still have to fight some of that stinking thinking that's in there. The I'm not good enough, that kind of the filters that we go through, or the, I've got this thing whooped, I'm doing okay. And we don't, and sometimes we get blinded by the things that we're not taking care of. I've whooped that, so I don't have to work on it no more. And which is, famous last words. So the beginning of the
I
end.
want to comment on what you just said there. And I agree that he had the problem of lying. He had the problem of the women and the false belief that he was invincible as long as he didn't cut his hair. I agree with that. But the biggest problem was lying to himself,
Yes.
believing a lie.
Believe in the lie. Yeah.
Believing a lie. I mean, the other problems are workable, but I mean, you could find ways to get around to help manage so that by different behaviors, okay, different beliefs, but this self-deception is what we're talking about. That lying is the real getter. That's the one that really sets us up for failure, and that's denying reality. And
Mhm.
that's and so which is the worst problem? They're all a problem, okay? Which is the worst? Well, I think it's hard to fix the other two that we were talking about, if we continue to live in the land of denial and self-delusion. Anything else,
Exactly.
Lisa?
No, this is kind of, that was the one thing that I wanted to kind of, say is just he he bought into the lie. He truly believed that was his only problem, and that self-deception, and in the book it even asks you some questions about that, and it gets into more detail. Of course, I don't want to talk about that right now because I'm sure Zach will get into it, but we just got to be careful about that dangerous self-deception, because many of us in this step, in the beginning we believe if I just stop using, or if I just stop doing this thing, then I'm okay and I'll be better. And that's where that self-deception comes in. And then for some of us who've been here for a long time, well, I've dealt with that, so I'm better, and I don't have to keep dealing with that. I don't have to keep working at it. And so it's don't believe the lies. don't believe the things that you tell yourself, when maybe subconsciously you're self-sabotaging. So
All
just a
right.
thought.
No, it's good though. I think I'm going to shut up right there myself and go on to the guy with the big brain. We'll go to Zach.
Man, getting heavy in here with all this this big talk. So, well, thank you, Doug and Lisa, for all that. It was really good. And we missed Doug number 2 tonight. If he's watching or was watching, we miss you, and we hope we can get you on here to do the step sometime soon. I'm going to do reflection tonight, and again, what Doug and Lisa were saying is really good. I wanted to touch on the loneliness part with the holiday thing real quick before I go into the reflection. When Doug was talking about that, he said reach out, and that's very important. And I think what happens to some people, and this is what was true in my life, there were some times in my life that I was very alone, and the people that family wasn't there like I wanted them to be, and or like I thought they should have been, or whatever that is. The truth is that sometimes people can't give you what they don't have, or what they don't know how to do, and it's very easy to say, well, if my family didn't want me or want anything to do with me, or maybe it's your friends or whatever it is, then what does it matter? And that's universal. I mean, that's everybody in the world feels that way from time to time, and we have to watch out for that. I personally believe that loneliness is one of the biggest killers on the planet. Um, you know, it's painful. And so here's my point. We have to become willing to build our own life, even if the people that we want to be in it don't want to be in it. And that's easy to say and it's hard to do, but we have to be willing to do that, you know, and we have to find enough value and worth in ourselves to stick around and do that. You know, I was reading some information the other day about there's a 2020 there's a large amount of suicides in 2020 due to how the virus changed our lives and we couldn't go out and do anything, but nobody wanted to report it and it was kind of covered up. And there's lots of reasons for those suicides. Lack of connection, lack of human touch, all the restrictions, the fear, and all those different kinds of things. But loneliness is a part of that. And my point is that everybody has worth and value, and no matter who you are, what you've done, you matter and you have worth and value. And you have to, if your family or your friends or whoever that is, your spouse or your kids or whatever it is, if they check out for whatever reason and they don't want to be in your life, you've got to build your own life anyway. And I know that's easy to say. You got to build your own life anyway, because you're here for a reason. You were born for this time for a reason. And my hope is that you will find a way to build your own life and allow the people in that God puts in your life, whether they're the people you want or not, and that you'll leave the door open for the ones that have let you down, that weren't there when you needed them. And but that you'll build your own life, because we need you. And don't fall into that lie that if your family or friends don't value you, that that you don't need to be here. Don't fall into that, because that's a lie. And so I'll get off that soapbox and move on. Step 1, I'm going to read the step real quick. So we admitted that we were powerless over our problems and that our lives had become unmanageable. We were powerless over our problems and our lives become unmanageable. So there's so many things that you can say about this step, and I'm going to give my reflection on this step. I remember the first time that I did this step, I had a hard time. First of all, I thought I could breeze through these steps. And I thought I was really something, that I was going to devote a week per step, right? What a saint, right? I was going to devote a week per step, even though it probably wasn't going to take me that long. I was going to make sure that I went through this book slow enough that I was going to devote 12 weeks to this book. And, because
you know why? Because of that big brain we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, that big brain. Yeah, that big brain of mine. Yeah, and that's an inside joke because my wife has superior intelligence. That's what Doug's messing with me on. But this big brain of mine decided that I was going to breeze through these steps, but I don't want to go through them too fast, because I want to devote some time, right? And I'll give each one a week, even though we're going to take me that long. I'll give them a week. And I think that this first step took me 2 or 3 months. The fourth step I know took me, minimum 4 months. Because they kicked my butt. You know, the truth is, if you really work the steps work you. You know, and that's not just a cliche. Um, they really work you. You know, and this step is extremely hard. Um, it was for me because I was a very hard individual. If for those of you that may not know me, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'3". You know, I'm kind of a giant, and I've been through a lot of stuff in my life. I used to be a very violent person. Um, when I opened this book and read that, you know, I'm a powerless person, I didn't identify with that because there's not a lot about me that you know there's nothing that I identify with as being powerless, and and but the reality of it is that uh, I had things in my life that I had used to cope that had control over me, and they were pushing me around and making and they were influencing every one of my decisions. And you know, if you can imagine, you know, a hook in my mouth and it was pulling me every which way it wanted me to go. And you know, some of this stuff that we're talking about, you know, being self-deceived tonight, and I thought that I was in control, you know. And the reality of it is that I was powerless to all the things that I had let consume me, you know, that I had given my power over to. And the truth is, the first time I worked these steps, I was actually sober. You know, and the worst things in my life, um, you know, we've already kind of touched on it tonight with Lisa and Doug, but and they talked about, you know, Samson. The things that we cope with, drugs and alcohol, you know, anger, these addictions, these coping skills that we use, you know, pornography, you know, sex addiction, adultery, you know, I know I've known people that, you know, they steal things, you know, whatever it is that you do to numb out, escape, and distract yourself, that isn't the real issue. You know, why are you escaping? Why are you numbing out? Why are you disappearing? You know, that's a good question to ask yourself. But that's scary because, you know, we're usually running from that answer. And we don't want, and that's why we escape, because we don't want to think about those things. We don't want to feel those things. Um, and so, you know, we use to escape. And so some things I wrote down, you know, some things I wrote down when I was studying, some things I wrote down when we were taught, when I was listening to Doug and Lisa talk. You know your limits. You know, we've said that different ways tonight, but it's you know, we have to quit lying to ourselves, and we have to know our limits. You know, like I've talked about it a lot. You know, I've got 15 plus years sober, and people would think, oh well, you know, you got it whooped. You know, but if I go to a gas station and I catch myself staring at the, you know, the airline bottles that are on the counter by the register, because they put them right there, you know, because they just want to help you out. They're just being convenient, you know, because maybe you don't want to walk all the way back in the back so they're putting it right there on the counter because they're nice. You know, they're just thinking about you. They just don't want you to have to walk all the way back there, you know. And it's just a shot, right? It's not a whole bottle. It's just, I'm being sarcastic, but that's what our mind does to us, right? We make excuses and allowances for this stuff. You know, it's not a whole bottle. It's just a shot. It's just a little bit. You had 15 plus years clean, and yeah, you got this whoop, man. You're not gonna. I mean, that's not gonna bother you. It's not. You're not gonna. I mean, you're not gonna get any more. You're just gonna do a little bit, right? If I catch myself staring at that little bucket of airline bottles, or I catch myself thinking like that way I just was talking, I leave. Even if I went in there to get a soda or something, or you know, a snack or whatever, I leave. And I get in the car and I go hit Sonic or something if I want to drink. And you say, oh, well, that's ridiculous. That's stupid. That's inconvenient. Well, that's a lot better than me thinking about that for the next 2 hours or the whole rest of the day. That's part of my recovery. You know, you got to know your limits, you know, because, you know, I'm a person in long-term recovery. I'm always going to be a person in long-term recovery. You know, my next statement, I'm not knocking you if this is what you do, because what you do is what you do, and that's fine. I don't believe in saying that I'm an addict and always will be an addict. To me, that doesn't help my recovery. But at the same time, if I go into the gas station and I stare at those bottles and I go on and get my soda and I look at all the other liquor in the aisle and I think about that, and I go up to the line in the register and I'm staring at the bucket and I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking about it, and I get up to the register and I'm still staring at the bucket. And then even if I walk out without buying anything and it's a victory, I still think for the next couple hours minimum, why was I staring at everything so much? What's my issue? Why do I have a problem? Why didn't you leave? And then I have all that mental torture. I don't need it. And so, knowing my limits, if I'm doing that, I just leave. And I go hit Sonic because there's no liquor there. And so, that may seem ridiculous, but that's knowing your limits, and that's protecting your recovery. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Zach, that's exactly what we were talking about with Samson, that he was living with his own lie about his problem. He was dancing with the problem, and you're describing about dancing with a problem, and you don't have to do the dance.
Right, you don't have to.
Yeah, you can go to Sonic.
Yeah. You can go to Sonic, and why do the dance? Why put yourself through that torture? Why do it? You know, and here's the deal. I mean, I spent some time early in my recovery thinking, well, I should be over this. I should be better. This shouldn't be a problem. And you know, you can shit all over yourself all day long, and it doesn't change anything. You are where you are, and there's nothing wrong with where you are. You know, we have to stop beating ourselves up all the time about every little thing. You know, it's, you know, doing your recovery, doing maintenance, keeping yourself healthy, doing these little things that I'm talking about, they pay big dividends. And it doesn't matter if anybody else thinks it's dumb. It doesn't matter. It's about your recovery, you know, and that's all that matters. You know, Samson, we've talked about different things that were wrong, but most of all is he believed his own lie. And he didn't live in reality. And there's a long time in my life I didn't live in reality. I didn't, you know. And you know, and I was in a constant state of disappointment and anguish, and I was really causing it all by myself, you know. And you know, it's like, for example, and I wasn't doing this particularly, but this is an easy way to explain it. It's like if the bills come due, and you know when they're due, and you choose to spend your money on something else, and you don't pay the bills, and then the shut-off notices come, and that makes you angry. And you could have paid it, but you didn't. You bought something else, and maybe it wasn't even dope or anything else. You just bought something else because you just didn't want to give them your damn money. And then the power goes off, and then you're mad about that. You know, then you have all the fees and everything else, and then it's just torture. But you did that to yourself. And that's just an example, but we do that stuff to ourselves all the time in different areas. you know, because we don't want to live life. We don't want to live life on life's terms because we want it to be different. You know, we're not living in reality. We want things to be different than what they are, and they just are not the way we want them to be. And maybe that sounds kind of vague. I hope that makes sense. But um, you know, I think one thing that we can do is there's a tool that I use with folks. I found a long time ago. It's called a relapse autopsy. You can look it up online and find it. Now it's intimidating. It's a great big huge document. It's like 15 pages. But if you can get a hold of that thing, you know, just it's got questions on it, and it starts from your relapse, and then it goes back in increments like 10 minutes before you relapsed, and you know, an hour before you relapsed, and 2 hours before you relapsed, and you're supposed to like kind of like journal what you were doing. And then it goes all the way back to like a month before you relapsed. Like, was there any significant thing that happened in your life? And my whole point of bringing that up is we have to start being conscious of our choices and what we're doing. Like what Doug was talking about, when, you know, the person that he was mentioning that, you know, hey, you know, you knew what you were doing. No, I didn't. Okay, yeah, I did know what I was doing. We really know. We know what we're doing. We just lie to ourselves, you know. And that tool, if you could see what you see and know what you know, and we probably don't have time to go into it, but the point is that we're really aware of what's going on around us. We set ourselves up all the time. All my relapses, I set myself up. You know, but I would have swore to you that I didn't. Just right place, wrong time, you know, and it was there. But I chose to go where I chose to go over to that person's house, and I knew they were going to have drugs or alcohol or whatever, and I knew they'd let me. I knew the opportunity would arise. And so I knew that I shouldn't even go over there. Just like if I'm staring at the bottles on the counter at the gas station, I need to get out of there. I knew I had no business being at that house, you know. And I think I need to kind of wrap up here, but something else that I thought about, and I'm not trying to beat it with a dead horse, but kind of goes along with knowing our limits, is we have to stop ignoring the problem. You know, and because we know there's a problem, and we just keep kicking the can down the road. And I know it's hard. It's really, really hard. It's hard because we got all this other stuff going on, and we just don't want to deal with it. It's just hard. It sucks, and it's messy, and it's hard. I just don't want to deal with it. But nothing gets any better until we stop ignoring the problem and we deal with it. And so I'm going to read a question here real quick, and then I need to get off here. So, dangerous self-deception. What is so scary about telling the truth? We don't know what people are going to do. We don't know if we're going to lose our friends, or if people are going to be mad at us or think less of us, or you know, what are people going to think of us, you know? And that's just kind of touching the tip of the iceberg, you know. I mean, how many times have you shared the truth in a meeting, and you heard something come out of your mouth that you're hearing it for the first time yourself? You know, you were saying it, but you were saying it for the first time yourself. What are some of the question 2 here says, what are some of the reasons I use? What are some of the reasons I use for starting my behaviors and substance abuse again? And you know, that kind of goes back, you know, why, I guess that's why am I relapsing, you know? And you know, we push ourselves over into that stuff, you know. One of the biggest reasons why I think people relapse is that we abuse ourselves, and we kick ourselves right back over into the same into the behaviors that we don't want to do. If we could become our own best friend, like Jordan Peterson says, if that's not what he says, that's what he means. If I could treat myself like somebody I'm responsible for caring for, that's what he says.
You got me and Jordan Peterson mixed up. That's all I can say.
If Jordan Peterson says, if I could treat myself like somebody I'm responsible for caring for, that's what Jordan Peterson says.
Yes, he did. Yep, that's correct.
Meaning that what that means to me is, if I could be good to myself, if I could be my own best friend, if I could be good to me, because if you're responsible for caring for somebody, you're not mean to them, you treat them good, because you don't belittle them, you support them. I mean, you help them get where they want to go, and you don't beat them up for their mistakes. And what's equally just as powerful, if not more, is what Doug says, which is, and then it goes together, it goes right there hand in hand, is instead of beating yourself up for your mistake, whatever that is, whether it be relapse or anything else, what did you learn? Stop beating yourself up, because it's going to do you no good at all. You think, whether conscious or subconsciously, that it's going to prevent you from doing it again. How's that working out for you? That's also a Dougism. How's that working out for you? Has it ever worked before? Have you ever been so mean to yourself that it kept you from doing that mistake? The answer for most of us is no. So, Dougism number 2 here. What did you learn? If you could not beat yourself up and just say, what did you learn? What did you learn? Because if you don't beat yourself up for that behavior, whatever it is, you won't go back and repeat it. More than likely, you won't repeat it. Not right then. And so, if we could just do those 2 things, it'd make a world of difference. It would change our life and everybody around us. It would do that. And so I talked way too long, but I need to get off here. So, stop being mean to you. Just stop it. just stop it. I get it. I know why you're doing it. I did it for a very, very long time. I've talked a lot about, it's like I had a room, and there was a box in the corner, and there was all kinds of bats in that box, and they had different words on these bats, and I would just pick a bat and beat myself with it. And I did that for so much of my life. Don't do that. It does nothing. It just makes you sicker. So don't do that. Be your own best friend. If you mess up, get up and ask yourself what you learned, and learn from it. Write it down if that's what you got to do, and move on. And you'll get better a lot quicker, and you'll heal a lot quicker. And that's what I got. So without further ado, please welcome Doug.
Thank you, Zach. Appreciate that. Before I say whatever I'm going to say, looks like John, you have anything you'd like to share on what we've said so far? Okay. All right. And Lisa, you have any other comments that you'd like to share? Zach's shaking his head no. So, are you reading her mind or what?
She shook her head no. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We've lost a few through the process here, but thanks, Lisa, for participating, and Macy and Zach and John and Alicia. She was here earlier, and by the way, I talked with Bobby Geiger. He was supposed to be here. He was over the road. Actually, he's online with us now on Facebook, and he's got back into town, but he is listening. The message is, but he wanted us to pray for his baby. The baby is just a few months old. His name is Matthew, and he is not wanting to eat. They have a feeding tube in, but anyway, we just need to remember to pray for little Matthew, to hold up him and his mom and dad and the rest of the family. Also, believe that he'll get big and strong and make those healthy choices. So anyway, so we just need to pray for Matthew, and we'll try to do that at the close of the meeting here. So I just wanted to go ahead and get that in there. So we're talking about our real problem can be found by the lies that we're telling ourselves. And the trouble is, we believe our lies. And step one here is saying that we admit that we were powerless over our problems, and we may have a terrible issue with lying. And I've worked with people that just they lie to themselves, they lie to everybody else, and that scenario just really sabotages their life. And the fact of it is, we've bought into a lie that lying is going to keep us out of trouble. And my question to you, all of you out there in TV land, in internet land, here on Zoom, how's that worked out for you? Zach said that a while ago. I stole his line there, but it doesn't work out, because it comes back and gets you later. And even if it doesn't come back and get you later, you actually sabotage your own heart and spirit, because you know you've lied, and that damages you. You have destroyed some of your own personal credibility that you have toward yourself. And you are the predator that's doing that to you. So as Zach said earlier, be your best friend and not your worst enemy. So we're talking about step one, and that we need to recognize that we don't need to lie to ourselves. And oftentimes we lie to ourselves, I think, is because we think that's a way to avoid problems and avoid pain. But again, does that really work out that way? And I don't know if this is the right time to throw in a Nietzsche quote, but we've said it before, and it came to my mind today as I was preparing, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw it in here. And because we don't think we can make it, I'm thinking that we don't believe we can make it the way that it is, so we have to lie, we have to deceive, we have to avoid. And Nietzsche said this: he who has a why to live for can bear almost anything. And that's being true with yourself, being honest with yourself. If we have that big enough why, then we can do whatever we need to do to survive. And I came across this quote many years ago in Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. And he used that quote saying that because Viktor Frankl was in the Nazi death camp, and by looking and observing people, he knew that as long as the individuals, if they had a big enough why, they'd figure out how to live. As soon as they stopped having the why, then that's when they start dying. And in fact, he said that he gave him only so many hours in the internment camp. How long? Just I think it was like 36 hours that he knew. that when they lost their will to live, they stopped. They started dying, and in a few hours they were dead. And when Zach was talking about loneliness, there is research, scientific research saying that loneliness is the number one culprit, the number one issue that actually will instigate addiction behavior, getting addicted, because it's a way of getting, and it may sound strange, but they did their research with rats, and because they couldn't do it on people, but they could observe people, and they've done research and followed up. The patterns are there, but the fact of it is that when people lose hope, using the scenario that Zach was talking about, that when someone feels that they're not loved, so therefore they don't love themselves, and then they start hating themselves, and if they don't value, then I don't value me, so we start torturing ourselves, and then the next thing we do, we increase our anxiety so much that we go into some sort of behavior or acting out to help us to manage what we're doing to ourselves. We're inducing our own anxiety, and we don't have to do that to ourselves. That means we have to do things differently. We have to change our thoughts, which changes our life. We have to change our choices, which changes our life. And so we just have to make these changes so that we can have a different life. I know that sounds simple, but it's true. So back into the step, when we refuse to admit our powerlessness, we are only deceiving ourselves, because we all have areas of powerlessness. But if we deny that we have them, then we're deceiving ourselves, and we set ourselves up for failure, because then we try to force ourselves to pretend, we either force or pretend that we don't have that problem. But then that problem rises up, gets big, and grabs a hold of us, picks us up, and carries us away. So we need to not deceive ourselves. We need to see what we see and know what we know, as Zach said earlier. The lie we tell ourselves and others are familiar. Zach touched this a little bit already. This is right out of the book. And some statements that all of us have made. And if you haven't made them, you will make them. And that is, I can stop anytime that I want to. That's a lie that we say, okay? How many people have we heard say that and then say, but I found out that wasn't so? You want to say something, Zach?
No, I'm just laughing because I'm hearing myself in my head many years ago. You know, maybe you can't stop, but I can. You know, and or you know, maybe you aren't in control, but I'm in control. You know, and just all that stuff. You know, and I was so sure of myself. You know, and like many people probably listening, you know, are remembering. You know, and we always think that we're the exception, and that's so dangerous, you know. And it's really not a laughing matter, I guess, but we always think we're the exception. I mean, we can watch so many people before us, you know, it get our friends, it get our family, you know, and even the people that we think it's not going to get, you know, we can watch it get them, meaning, you know, they're not going to lose control. It's not going to, you know, they're not going to get out of hand. It's, you know, they're going to remain in control, you know. And then we go, oh well, man, you know, he really, you know, he's been drunk for 10 years now. He drinks every day. I never thought he'd lose control. And the whole time we're not in control. We're just deceiving ourselves, but we think we are. but we always think we're the exception, you know, and that's really scary, dangerous, because no one's the exception. You know, we have this thing where we can watch it happen to everybody around us, but we still think it ain't going to happen to us.
And that's the self-deception that our topic is out of the book. And that's what Samson was, you know, what was going on with him. He deceived himself because he felt that what he had was more bigger or more powerful, or he was outside the reach because he had this supernatural strength. And
yeah, I'm stronger than that guy. I'm tougher than that guy. Yeah.
You keep bringing this to my mind, and I know I've mentioned it in the past about I had lunch. This has been several years ago with a guy because I was trying to. We were meeting, and I was trying to help him, and he was telling me that his situation was that he was trying to help somebody else, and that he wanted to prove to this other fella that he could do more dope than him, and he was clean. And he was trying to get this other guy clean. So the way he was going to do it was use more dope than him, and which is extremely dangerous, particularly somebody that's been clean. And he'd been clean for a couple of years, I think. And what happened was, we know the rest of the story. They both ended up in that sad shape. And fortunately, both of them now are clean, but gosh, when you lose your recovery, you know, we need to get right back with it as soon as we can, because the longer you wait, now this is just Doug's opinion, the longer you wait, the harder it is. Because you got all your self-blame and hatred and the lies you tell yourself and just blah, 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 blah. Most of you know what I'm talking about. And so, and whether it's meth or alcohol or whatever behavior or substance, whatever it is, you know, the reason why you fell prey to that was because you were needing something to help you that was outside of yourself, but you didn't realize that you were really reaching outside of yourself, but you were reaching in the wrong direction. And we either don't want to do anything or we keep reaching the wrong way. Anyway, I'm not careful, I'll go into preaching there. So, but the lie, I was talking about the lie, the first lie, I only got to one, and Zach had, he had to comment on it, which was good. And it was, I can stop anytime I want to. We know that's the first lie. The second lie is I am in control, which you've already talked about, but you're welcome to make another comment if you want. I'm in control. It's a lie, right? Because the reality of it is we're not in control of anything outside of ourselves. The only thing we have control over is ourselves. But the trouble is, we're not very good at that. That's the reason why we have to have community. We have to have the we factor instead of the I factor. Because I think Jordan Peterson said this too, Zach, that our sanity, our mental health is really a product of not just ourselves, but the community that surrounds us, that the community that we allow ourselves to be in. And it's a shared process. I helping their sanity, them helping my sanity. And look, I'm not going to go there, but we have a shared collective sanity process. And that's the reason why the people, places, and things are so important for us to be aware of, so that we make those selections. And Samuel broke all of those things. So that was number two. And and Zach touched on this one. This one won't hurt anything. One is all right. Just one, right? Just one. I can get by with one. Just a little. I won't even swallow the whole bottle, that shot bottle. Okay, just half of it. And then, well, nothing happened with half of it, so why not the other half? And 2 bottles, 3 bottles, and then after that, you lose count. You keep going until normally the money runs out. And so, and that's and again, that's self-deception. We set ourselves up, and we inch closer to disaster by making those subtle lies to ourselves. And then we lie, we're getting closer mentally, emotionally, and the next thing you know, you're doing it and you're saying, well, it won't matter. It's not, I'm not hurting anybody. This wasn't in the literature, but I'm not hurting anybody, you know. But the fact of it is, we don't live in a bubble. We're connected, and we are either positively affecting everybody around us or negatively affecting everybody around us. Because if you're not doing good, we're not doing good. If you do better, we all do better. That's just the way that it is. And Samson, even though he was a powerful man, a powerful judge, had great strength, he still was weak because he lied to himself. Okay? And we all have gifts and talents, but when we thinking that we're special because of them and the rules don't apply, we're setting ourselves up for big failure. Grandiose thinking. What it's referred to in the NA and AA literature. So, so Samson had this lifelong weakness. Our weaknesses are with us, okay? We drag them around, and we need to be aware of them instead of pretending they're not there. Now, some of you say, well, I already got it. What? Just saying that is you're lying to yourself. You're denying. You're denying because it can and will rear up its ugly head. You said, well, the old man is dead and buried. He's in the grave. Well, trouble is, he doesn't always stay in the grave. He comes out. And the only way for us to keep him buried or her buried is that we recognize that we can't feed. Lying and pretending that it's not there is only feeding the monster. Yeah. And so what we have to do is we have to recognize our weaknesses that are long term, but we can by drawing from him. I want to get down to this because I'm really running along here. But Samson's problem was that, and our problem, okay, is that we it can be found that we're lying to ourselves, and that by not admitting our powerlessness or our weakness, our blindness, because see, we don't even see what we see. We lie to ourselves. We turn our vision off. How many times have people come into my office and said, tell me what to do? And I say, well, you already know. You see it. You just don't want to do it. Well, what you want is you want something else, instead of doing what you know you need to do. And see, you're not tuning in to that internal spirit guide that's inside of you to help you to get where you need to go. You always want to go the other way. That's the definition of sin, in case you didn't know. Going our own way, okay? Doing our own thing, or doing it my way, okay? That'll get you into trouble. And so recognizing our powerlessness and our helplessness, what we need to do is here's the solution, all right? We talked about the problem. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to, some solution here. Okay, what we need to do is we need to take action by doing something positive, like going to a meeting, okay? Reading some positive material, some recovery literature, the scriptures. We need to do some things that will help us. Okay, we need to spend time and draw close to God, listen to Him. It may be just being in silence, being quiet. And I know that makes some of us crazy. Okay, but if you keep just bombarding your brain with stuff that just separates you from reality, and I know it's another coping mechanism that's what drugs is about, that's what alcohol is about, that's what sex is about, that's what rage is about, that's what violence is about, that's what all of them's about, okay? Is some way to escape reality because we don't like what's going on right now. Well, and I understand that you may even have to do that, but you can't keep doing that because it's killing you. It's going to separate you. It's going to destroy you. It's going to take you to a place you never wanted to go. Okay, and if we continue down that line, then it's going to have us. Step one contains a potent paradox, okay? And that is that we need to tell ourselves the truth, okay? We need to tell ourselves the truth. You say, well, I don't know the truth. Well, you've clouded your mind. You have confused, oftentimes, maybe you are the exception, like Zach said earlier. This probably is not you. It's probably somebody else, but you have confused yourself with stuff, facts, figures that don't really even matter, okay? To try to cover up what you know is true. And I'm saying you need to focus on what is true, even if it's not what other people are telling you. I'd prefer that you go ahead and embrace that truth that you know is true. Not what they said, but what you know is. And you may even find out what they said is true, but you can't get there if you keep lying to yourself and avoiding what you know that is true. And so I know that's kind of heavy, and I was going to say I'm sorry, but I'm not. Okay, it's still the truth, and that we need to choose. We need to choose to know the truth about our powerlessness. Okay, and I know that's hard, but we still need to, and that we need to recognize our addictions. And by the way, there's more than just 2 addictions. It's more than drugs, more than alcohol. I've already listed a bunch of them, and there's all kinds of addictions, and there's so many people. The truth is, some of our church people that may be listening to this on our church pages, you got addictions too. Now, maybe you're not drinking, but maybe you are. Maybe you're just hiding it. Or maybe you're doing something else. But the fact of it is, maybe they're even socially accepted. Like I've had people say, I'm not a drug addict. Everything I take is prescription. I said, okay. My next question usually is, if we're able to ask it, is, yeah, but are you taking it according to as prescribed? Why is it that you got to buy stuff off the street to help you in between? Just thought. Or even if you are taking it as prescribed, you continually having to up the dose, because the fact of it is, most of the time, that's not really helping you. It's just another way of escape from dealing with what's going on. Not all the time, okay, but a lot of time. And if you really knew the truth about most of our medications, it's tragedy. And I'm not saying that medication is bad. I'm saying if we need to use them. Like I had a fella that was a professor, had multiple doctoral doctorates, and he was having struggles, and he wanted to quit his medication, but he was in the middle of, there was so many things whirling around and pressuring him. And I said, listen, the first thing you need to do is you need to get back on your medication until you get through all these. They had people, I don't want to go into it, but they had he was being attacked on so many fronts. And he was attacking himself on the inside. And I said, you need to do it. And he said, well, I can't do that. And I said, listen, you're a smart guy. You can figure it out legally. You can call the doctor. All right. You can do this if you choose to. And the rest of the story for him, he did, got him through his crisis. He weaned off of it later and did quite well. But some people, and I know I may be an exception here, Zach, that I told him that's what he needed to do, and he believed me, and because that's what he did need to do at that particular moment, okay? Because it wasn't, what he was doing wasn't helping him. It was actually harming him. It was making him worse, okay? He was not stable, and he's very smart, okay? Very smart, okay? So anyway, let's get off that. Go ahead.
Medication is, if you know, medication's there for a reason. It's there for stability. You know, I mean, I'm a big advocate for medication. You know, but at the same time, you know, if and I'm not knocking anybody. I'm not hating on anybody. But if you find yourself taking a hydro for a headache because it's left over from the last time you went to the dentist, there's a problem. And you're thinking, oh, well, why is that a problem? There's a problem, you know, and, you know.
And if you don't think it's a problem, you're lying to yourself, right? Let's just say it.
Yeah, because what happens is it's a little by little, and then we get addicted to these things that destroy our health, and they destroy, and those medications, if even prescribed for the right reasons, can harm us, you know. And if we take them for the wrong reasons, I mean, we're in severe danger. You know, here's something, and I'll be quiet. Here's something that people don't know. They think that all these street drugs are lethal and they're really, really dangerous. You know that the worst drug combination in the world is prescription pain meds and alcohol. So the elderly woman at home in the evening having a glass of wine and taking a Valium, thinking that she's just relaxing, has no idea that she's taking the worst drug combination on the face of the planet. It's worse. It's more lethal. It's worse, more damaging to their body and their brain than fentanyl, than meth, than heroin and cocaine. And it's extremely addictive. You know, and so, you know, there are millions and millions of people that are doing that because I just need to wind down or relax, and they have no idea what they're doing to themselves and how it just takes just a little bit of a push, and you are it's over your head, and you're taking way more than you ever imagined that you're taking.
And that's correct.
Hydro,
Go ahead.
hydro for a headache, and you know, next week it's a hydro for everything.
That's and that again, that's that self-deception we're talking about. We deceive ourselves, and it's because with that scenario you set out there is because the only way that we can really survive is to be able to develop some emotional endurance and be able to deal with life in a sober way. And the fact that if we're not sober, we feel that we're dealing with life in an appropriate way, but the fact of it is, we have a distorted view of ourselves and what's going on because we escaped reality. And the rest of the story is that combination of drugs and alcohol, you know, it affects your brain, it shuts down your breathing, and you can stop breathing. And you say, well, you know, and it has to do with your metabolism, and you just don't know. You just don't know. But the fact of it is, we need to stop lying to ourselves. We need to find healthy ways of that we implement self-care. Those healthy ways we're talking about: going to meetings, get in the literature, getting maybe, you know, get into your pastor or a counselor or somebody to help you to address, to work on your process, what's happening in your life. Yes, your situation could have been started and probably was started because of some trauma in your life and a scenario of trauma. And once you've experienced the trauma, you're more susceptible to traumas after that. It takes less of a trauma to be traumatized after you've had the trauma, because you've already started down that road, and that's not where we're going tonight, but it's still true. And so what we have to do is we have to stop sabotaging ourselves. We have to stop blinding ourselves, and we have to recognize our weak areas so that we can be stronger. And I'm looking for this quote, the statement I really wanted to have in here, and I'm scanning down through my paper because well, let me just let me do, and then when you come to the place that now you can see, we're able to make healthy or healthier choices, and we can stop falling into the same pit or trap that we've been falling into. And I had that poem of your personal story in 5 chapters, but I'm not going to go into that tonight. And so what we set our trap and then we fall into it. He even talks about that in Proverbs. Okay, it says the animals are smarter than that, but the unsaid thing is, well, oftentimes we're not. So we must change our mindset. Okay, we have to change it. We have to change it from the I to the we. And here is this. I'm going to back up my notes, and we need to tell ourselves the truth about our powerlessness and overcome our addictions. When we receive the truth, this is big, in my opinion. This is part of the solution here. When we receive the truth that we'll tell ourselves, then actually what we're doing, we're giving ourselves the power to make a choice. Because when we're lying to ourselves, we're continually putting ourselves in bondage. We're blinding ourselves. We're eliminating our ability to choose and to turn into healthy choices. In other words, make healthy choices. And so we have to come to the place and we say, wait a minute, I've done this sick thing enough times. I'm ready to do something else. And even if you don't know what to do, but I've already told you something to do, but even if you don't know what to do, if you just stop doing what you've been doing, then you have at least a 50-50 chance of doing something that will be healthy and constructive. And if you find out it's not, then stop doing that. Okay? Stop harming yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Okay? Socially. Now, we need to invest ourselves into community, healthy community. You've already invested yourself into unhealthy communities, I would guess. And so, and even God has given us an example of the importance or the value of community, because he lives in community. It's the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. That's community. Okay. And he wants to live with us. And we need to recognize our humanness, and we need to recognize our rebellious nature. Zach kind of referred to some of that. He didn't use that terminology, but that rebellious nature, and we need to deal with our rebellious nature. If we can't deal with it, who can? Yeah, they can lock you up, but that doesn't change the rebellious nature, right? Right? Okay, and like I've said at the times past, if you don't control yourself, you eventually will come into the place where somebody will have to control you, and that's not good. And no matter how strong you think you are, and even Samson thought that he had it. I mean, nobody could whip him, but finally he came to a place that they kept searching. And if you don't control yourself, you'll eventually come to a place that somebody will control you in some way, and you're probably not going to like it. I think that's a pretty good guess. But if we can learn to control ourselves, if we can control that rebel inside of us, if we can just, one of the ways you control yourself is stop lying to yourself. Then we can open up to God, and then God will come in. He is willing to come into your weakness, your powerlessness, your unmanageable life. He's willing to come in with you in the middle of your crap, if you will, crappy life. What's going on? Your sickness. If you're just will turn that corner and begin to open up and allow him to come in, instead of saying, I got this, I can do this. Everybody that's ever said that meant they want to go for one more deeper ride. Okay. And the pain, the internal and the external pain, continues to grow. Now, does that mean recovery is pain-free? No. It's painful, but it's constructive pain. It's not destructive pain. It's hard. It's hard to let go. It's hard to grab a hold of that rebel. It's hard to help that rebel to see the light. It's hard to heal. And all healing is painful. But if you have a strong enough why, you can endure anyhow. You can make it. Just don't lie to yourself. That's my message for today. Don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Man, you can fool some of the people some of the time, and you can fool all the people some of the time. You can fool all the people some of the time. You can fool some of the people all the time. But the biggest fool is the fool that tries to fool himself. I think that's how it goes. It's been a long time since I went through that, but so don't fool yourself. Focus on the truth. So may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you. There is hope. We love you. God loves you. Don't swallow that lie that you can't make it, because you can't. You can't. We've seen it. We've experienced it. You can't. So make healthy choices. And Zach, I'll turn it back over to you and let you take us out. Love y'all.
All right. Well, it was a good night. Had a good meeting. Liked everything you said there, Doug. Thanks for that. And we're glad that you're with us tonight. And if you join this, if you view this afterward, we're glad that you're here watching. And if you want to give us a comment or a like or something, we appreciate that. Let us know you're here. And, step one, there's a gift inside this step that if we choose to take it, that we're not in control. And, there's hope and freedom in that there's help for us. And so, man, tonight was good. And if we can just, start trying to practice some of these things, and we're not going to get it right all the time, but if we just keep practicing them, we'll get a lot better at it. And so remember to, be honest with yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Try to be good to yourself. Be your own best friend. Don't beat yourself up. Ask yourself, what did you learn? And, one of the best things you can do for yourself is to be honest with yourself. And, that may be hard, but there's freedom there. And so we love you. We're glad that you're here. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.